start with you again. What does it mean to be an Asian American law student?
It's different from other minorities because one thing that I found is with Asian Americans, Indians particularly, is that hardly anybody wants to see you succeed. I mean, when I applied for law school, my own family members were telling me, you can't do it, you can't do it. There's no way you can get into law school. When I got into law school, you're going to get disqualified. You're not going to make it to law school. So I mean, one thing that I can tell you is don't let anybody, including your own parents, tell you you can't do something, because you can do it. And that's the one bad thing that I find about the Asian American community. We're not happy when anyone else in our community succeeds. And I think that's something that we have to change. If you look at other minority communities, when somebody succeeds, their entire community is happy for them. And maybe that's a big problem that we need to discuss in another time.
So for me, so I'm part, my mom is, or my grandfather was French, so I'm like part Asian, but my dad was really heavily influenced like how I grew up, and you know, it's like the typical Asian dad, very strict. Same with my mom as well. I think for me, when I grew up, they were refugees, so they had their own set of, I guess, how the world should be, and they brought it and they taught me the way that they were taught, essentially. So a lot of that stuff is like, you know, kind of like corporal punishment in a way, but I think that for me, learning through that, and even though Kajal, they, a lot of times they're like, oh no, you can't do this, you can't do that, but then now when I look back, when I realize, you know, they're older, I take it with a grain of salt, because in their community, that's how they were raised, and that's how, like, everyone, like, people tell you you can't do that because they think that you're going to take it and you're going to improve yourself. Like, that's really like the whole cultural mentality. At least when I went back to Vietnam and China, that was how it was. So even though my parents were saying that, you would think, looking as a stranger looking in, like, oh my God, how could your parents say that to you? How could your parents say, oh, you're going to fail, you can't do this? But you know, that was their way of saying, I love you, I want you to succeed. But they just couldn't do it because they weren't raised here. They didn't have the opportunities that I had. You know, like when here in America, everything's like pretty liberal, or some things are pretty liberal. But you have people supporting you, like there's all this love. And then in Asia, it's like, you know, they tell you you're fat, or they say all these things because they think that it's going to motivate you. So for me, now when I look back, I'm like, well, actually, if I just change my perspective and I just say, you know, even though they say that, I know that by their actions, doesn't matter what they say, you know, they're giving you money to go to school, they're buying you food, they're, you know, buying clothes for you. For me, when I see, you know, when I hear what they say and when I see what they do, it's so different that you just realize that, you know, if you just change your perspective, everything is a lot better. So like now, I feel like I understand my parents a little bit more, and they appreciate that, you know, even they're learning to change, basically. So yeah, so I just changed my perspective, and I thought that was really helpful for me, especially as an Asian American, because, you know, that's how I grew up, that's how they grew up. So
for me, being an Asian American law student is, I would probably just say it's just a chip on your shoulder. A chip on your shoulder just for your family, a chip on your shoulder for the community at large. Especially in the legal community. When you look at just even a school like GGU that's very diverse, the majority of students are still going to be, you know, white Caucasians. If you look at in the legal field, it's going to be, you know, white people again. If you look at big firms around here, it's still going to be, the majority is still whites. And it's not to say, you know, it's a race issue, but if you look at it, you know, minorities haven't had that impact yet. And it's a chip on my shoulder as well as everybody sitting here, that how do you get more the Asian American community more involved in the legal field? It's part of the reason why we have events like this, to get students to think early, to think that, you know what, you can also do it. You can also work at, you know, the top law firms. You can also be, you know, the DEA. You can also be the public defender. And so when I say it's a chip on me and my family, like my sister was saying, within my own family, my sister and I are the first ones to get an undergrad degree. We're in not just my immediate family, but my cousins as well. We're also the first ones to get a graduate degree right now. So, you know, proving it within yourselves and then taking that and translating that to also the community at large, that's what motivates me as a person to say that, you know what, I'm not just representing myself, I'm representing a community at large to get through and progress with that, so.
Being an Asian American law student, initially I thought, oh, this is a big deal because I'm Indian American. There's not going to be that many Indian Americans at Santa Clara. Go there and I see, what, like 30 brown people. Like, what are you all doing here? I'm supposed to be like the minority. Why are you all taking up my spot? That doesn't actually happen here in the Bay, unfortunately. At least at Santa Clara, our schools are really diverse, and it's kind of a blessing in disguise. When you go out to tech companies, you might see the same kind of diversity, but when you go to a law firm, as Kush said, it's still a majority white, and you don't really get that experience here in law school, but you might if you go elsewhere. One thing that I realized being Asian American is that we are very cliquey. I'm sure you've all seen that. It does not have to be with just Asian American communities, any minority community. Very cliquey, and we also, once we form our own group in schools or in any kind of organization, we tend to get really exclusive and a little snooty because we are in this group, we're all in law school, we're all really competitive, and it's a really great opportunity for everyone. So one thing that we've been trying to work on at Santa Clara is to kind of be more inclusive of all races. Just while you're a minority, you're also a minority that is not really a minority at your school and in this community, and you need to be inclusive of everyone, be open to new ideas, be open to new people, and get over that hurdle. That's going to be a hurdle you'll find in any kind of law school you go to. So I don't know if that made any sense.
Good. Well, for me, I think two things come to mind, expectations and pride. So being an Asian American law student comes with a lot of expectations from my family and friends. They want to see what I do with this path and with this career, but they also have a lot of pride. They're going to be the first ones to brag to, you know, their family and friends, like, oh yeah, I know Leo and he's going to law school, he's going to be an attorney. So it's nice because yeah, your family and friends, you know, being Asian American and going to be a lawyer, that's something that they want to share with others, and they're proud, but they also expect a lot out of you. They really want to see what you're going to do, and they all have their preconceived notions of what they expect of you, and you're going to have to balance what you actually do and how you cater to them.
All right, I'm sure